The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
No! I'm going down to Alphabet Street. I'm gonna crown first girl that I meet. I'm gonna talk slow.
Channel switched.
A, B, C, D, E, F word. It's time for the F word, everybody. Welcome. It is Tuesday night. It is September 25th, and I'm feeling it in Minnesota. It is officially end of summer. I don't know if it goes by the calendar or whatever. Mother Nature never pays attention. We go from 1 week being in the 90s, having perfect football weather over the weekend, and then today it's like it's in the 50s. You know what? I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I am. I hate when it gets cold. Really hate it, but I live here, so I shouldn't gripe about it that much, but I do. But it's a little rainy in the 50s, sweatshirt weather. I'm okay. If this was the coldest it got, I'd be all right with that, but I already know that, we could be 50 below zero in a couple months. So I'm just going to enjoy the weather. Just being here to enjoy any day is more of a blessing than a curse anyway. But yes, end of September. Wow, it just all goes so fast. But let me tell you, football weather, it was a great weekend for football, except for if you were, wanting to win. If you're a Vikings fan, which I am, or if you're a Packers fan, which I know several people are, it was like totally a weekend of like, wait, what? Who won? Wait, the Bears? The Lions? Wow. Some crazy stuff. The Patriots lost to the Lions. It's beyond me, but the Vikings play again this Thursday night against the Rams. So they got no break, which maybe that's what they needed. I got to tell you, though, my weekend, it was alumni weekend for the Vikings, and my dear friend and partner, so many levels, Robert Griffith, was extended the extreme honor of being able to speak for Denny Green. They inducted Denny Green into the Vikings Ring of Fame. And it was really special. It was a special night. All the festivities for the alumni weekend started on Friday with a nice cocktail reception, heavy appetizers, and that's just always fun. Everybody's just catching up from the year before or showing up for the first time, not knowing about it and excited about what's going to happen. But yeah, so that was fun Friday night. Saturday, we got to go tour the new Vikings training facility. There's an F word for you. Facility, football. And I went in there and I'm going, hey, I'm thinking of practice kicking with the new field goal kicker. Didn't see any of that, but I didn't really see them practicing that hard. Hopefully they were practicing harder when we weren't watching, but maybe that was all that they did. But yeah, so we went there, had a great tour. I mean, the Vikings, the Wilfs have done it first class. That place is amazing. It's hard to even describe, but it is totally first class. Then we had the ceremony for Denny Green, and several speakers, and Griff got to get up and do his speech, and it just did an amazing job. So everything was done so beautifully. Tracy McDonald, Deborah Jones from the Vikings organization, boy, they have their work cut out for them, because trying to keep all the players, getting them to places on time is like herding cats. So I got to give them big props and big glasses of wine next time I see them. Then the game, here's how bad the game was. I'm going to just put it out this way. Vikings game was so bad, and there was about 90 alumni there, and they went out at halftime. After halftime, actually before halftime, everybody was paying more attention to what Tiger Woods was doing than the game. So their backs were to the field watching Tiger win. So that tells you anything. Another highlight of the weekend was having Griff and then another player, Ashley Shepard, who's a good friend of ours. We got them knighted by Vikings World Order. Sid Davey, awesome guy. If you don't know who he is, he's the one when Randy Moss was scoring all of his touchdowns, he would jump up into the stands and Sid would catch him. Painted, he's got the chains on. Really nice guy. Comes from Canada all the time for these games, and he carried the tradition with Peterson. But super nice guy. They knighted Griff and Ashley into the Vikings World Order. So Sir Griff and Sir Ashley amidst royalty now. But anyway, so one of the things, so I've got a really special guest, the continuation of the other half of last week, because my mom and I were talking. But this week we have my daddy. And, when I talk about football, I remember going to games with my dad when I was a little girl. Hi, Dad. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just listening to you.
Yeah, I've always been a little chatty, Cathy, haven't I?
Right.
All right. Well, I remember going to football games with you, Dad, back at the old Met Stadium. And that must have been when I started my love of football, huh?
Right. And then there were times when we couldn't see across the field. The snow was blowing so much. In those snowy days. But it was cold.
It was cold, but that's what we dealt with. That's what we had, and we went to watch them. And I remember, being able to drink hot chocolate and, being dressed really warm and not caring. Now I wouldn't do it. I don't have to. But speaking of childhood, Daddy, let's go back to your childhood and actually before your childhood. And I want people to know a little bit about your background and where you come from, where your family comes from. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can. My mom and my grandmom on her side were born in Superior, Wisconsin. So I'm the third generation on my mom's side. My dad was born in Estonia, which is one of the Baltic states over in Europe, in 1910. And Grandpa came over here before World War I and stayed here and couldn't get back until after World War I. So he got back there and brought the family back here in 1922. 3 sons and 2 daughters, and they moved up to Superior, Wisconsin. And when they got to Ellis Island, they got off the boat, and Grandpa said to the family, "We are in America now. We will speak English." And that's how it started. And all of the family were naturalized in that time frame, and then they moved up to Superior, and Grandpa and Grandma started a farm. The 3 sons that were with them all worked for the Great Northern Railroad in Superior, Wisconsin. The 2 daughters married farmers and were on the farming deal. So there's where I got my start in 1938 when Mom and Dad were married in 1937. So that's a first generation and a third generation.
Wow.
On my side of the family.
So on Grandma's side of the family, where were they from? So Grandpa was from Estonia. Where was Grandma's family from?
Grandma's family from Grandpa Fredrickson was from Stockholm, Sweden.
Okay.
But Grandma's mom was born in Superior.
Okay.
So, but my grandpa on Mom's side was from Stockholm, Sweden.
Okay.
So they came over and then they worked in Superior area and all that.
So I could safely say I'm kind of Swedish, right?
Scandinavian, right?
Scandinavian. Okay.
Scandinavian.
All right. So.
And then I was born in 1938, and we lived in Superior for about 5 years until Dad moved us out into the country south of Superior. We never had a farm. We had 40 acres. And the biggest farm we had was 2 pigs, 3 chickens, and 2 ducks one year. That was our farm life.
Did you eat them?
Well, yes, they were food in the wintertime. That was it. But that's all we had for our farm life. we had our own garden. We did our potatoes and corn and peas and all that as we're kids. And then we grew up, went to school, I graduated from Superior Central. That was the Vikings, the Superior Central Vikings.
Wow, look at how that works out, Dad. Who knew?
I think Bud Grant went there too, or before me, but that was it. And I lived in the country, so we had bicycles when we were growing up. With bicycles on the dirt roads, and we never got to many movies or any of the stuff like that. So we rode the school bus to school in town and did our things.
Well,
and then
you had a lot of cousins that you played with, right?
I had two cousins, the Johnsons, Art and Bob, and my brother Jack and I. So it was four of us, and we played baseball out in the pastures we play hardball, but it was just the four of us, two on a side, see, and we'd do all the things, and we played that, and we worked hard. I started helping Grandpa for 50 cents a day when we were about 10, 11 years old in the hay in the summertime.
Wow.
And then after that, I went over to Uncle's for $1.50 a day. And then when I was in high school, early high school, went to a farm, paid $5 a day. It was 2 miles away. Rode our bikes over, rode the bike home. And then when I left there and went to town of Superior driving a gravel truck, and my brother took over the farm stuff. So we worked in the farm in our summer times and weekends and that to get a little extra money.
So what did you do at the farm?
Well, in the summertime,
because a lot of people nowadays
to
work on a farm.
I'm just sorry that you and Dennis didn't have a chance to work on a farm. I was at hay season. We'd put up hay up in the barn. I helped them with milking, all the stuff. In wintertime, I'd go over there. We'd have to spread manure out into the fields when taking it out of the barn and all that. But it was hard work. It was clean work. Farm that I got $5 a day from was a Finnish family, and they fed us. You know, we got lunch and supper and meals in the afternoon, so they fed us well. They worked us hard, but we really enjoyed it. You know, we worked hard and felt good.
That's good.
Ride home at night.
I mean, Dad, $5 a day back then, that's a lot of money.
Well, that's 1954, 5, and 6. And I'd be $35 a week. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any money to spend on it. You know, that was good, clear money, and food besides.
Right.
Super good food.
Wow. So the room, the board. I mean, so you were pretty much you learned at an early age then about your money. I mean, were you pretty? I mean, I know a kid or two in my life that spend quite freely.
Oh yes.
But
well, we worked hard for it, so you knew.
What did you guys do with your money? I mean, did you save it in a piggy bank? Put it in the
No.
bank? What did you do?
When we were going to school, there was savings stamps. You could save up $18 and some cents, and at Christmas time we could buy our Christmas presents. That was
wow.
And I still have.
How many did you get?
I still have my savings stamps from the World War II when we were on rations and all that. I still have that in one of my boxes around here. But no, we took care of it. You know, Mom always made clothes for us, a lot of shirts and stuff like that. So we always had food, clothing, and housing. So we never had want. Dad worked in the railroad for 44 years, so we never had want for food, love, clothing, and all that stuff. We were always taken care of. We lived in the country. We had kerosene lights until 1948. We got electricity.
Wow. When did you get an indoor toilet?
About 1952.
Wow.
We lived, so it was outdoors. But then when I got out of high school, then I didn't get my car until I was 19 years old. So that was about a year and a half after I got out of high school. I was working in Duluth, and I got a car then. And then from then on, I worked in a Western Electric in Duluth, making $1.25 an hour. And then they moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I didn't want to go because I wanted to stay with my friends. Well, all my friends went to Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and things like that. So there I was. When they moved, I had no job. So I found a job in the West Duluth, the West Duluth Shell. I worked there a year and a half.
Okay. What did you do there? Was that a gas station?
Well, I was a grease monkey, so to speak. I greased cars and took care of people's cars. It was a 24-hour station.
Is that where you learned to work on cars? Because, I mean, I grew up knowing you to work on cars all the time.
Oh, yes. That's where I took care of my own cars and took care of a lot of other people's cars. And a lot of people would come in there only when I was working so that I could work on their car. And it was something to take care of yourself. People now buy a car and they don't even know which end of it starts. When you open the hood, there's nothing there. But we did our things. All that.
Yeah,
and
I kind of resemble that remark. That's for sure.
Yeah, in 1960, then I moved to Minneapolis. I was going to go down and make my millions of dollars in Minneapolis, and I got a job at KP Industries making grease guns and lubrication products, which is part of the taking care of your car stuff.
Right.
And so that's where I was until 1961, and I got drafted. Jack Kennedy, the President Kennedy, sent me a letter. I was 23 years old and said, "You ought to go into the service." And it was during the Berlin crisis at the time.
They didn't give you a choice.
No, they didn't.
But
they sure did.
Well, I need to back up a second, though. I need to back up a second because you didn't finish, back in the 50s. Okay, so you talked about your brother, but you also have a sister.
I have a sister who was born 1948, 10 years after me.
10 years after,
and she still lives.
Baby.
She's a baby. She lives in Superior yet. And my brother lives in Hayward, Wisconsin here.
Yes. And
so I got
so you guys
one brother and one sister.
You and your brother were very close growing up.
Yes, we were 16 months between us.
That's crazy. And then 10 years later,
that was after World War II. Then got a whole bunch of cousins then.
That's the baby boomers.
That's what it was.
That's right. That's what 1940. I think 1944 to 1964 is the. Yeah, did you know I'm the last of the baby boomers? That's crazy.
That's right. That's right.
But I wanted to go back too, though, because in the 50s, there was where you are right now came into your life back in the 50s, right?
How do you mean?
Well, the cabin. How?
Well,
what year did that come into the family?
1957. Dad bought land down here on the lake. I'm not going to say which lake. There'd be too many people coming to see me then.
Yeah.
But anyway, he bought the land in 1957. So in 1958 and 9, my brother and we just would come down here and get our boats and run around and party in the different establishments around here and had a lot of fun. It was just great.
When I was younger. Okay, and still. We
had to clean the land all the way in, right down to the lakefront. So every weekend we come out and clear so much land, and so we get that place to park.
Where did you sleep? How long did it take to build a cabin?
I don't know. Dad built the cabin sometime in the I think after we left home, maybe in the early 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated in 56. He bought the cabin in 57.
Okay.
And I left in 1960 to go to Minneapolis. So he built it 62, something like that frame.
Okay.
But when we came down here with the guys partying, we'd just sleep in the cars along the beach, and all that. So we had fun that time. And then, then when in 1960s when I left this part of the country and went down to Minneapolis.
So tell everybody about it's kind of nice because this has been in the family literally since the 50s where you're staying right now.
Well, this is 1957 when Dad bought the land, and we are still the original owners of the lots that were sold here. We got other people that have been 3 or 4 different families have been in the other lots, but we are the only family that's been in the Kronberg name since 1957.
Wow.
And we bought it from Mom in 1915. No, when was it? 98. We bought it from Mom in 1998.
Wow, so before Mason was born.
Right. Well, see, my dad passed away in 19... Dad passed away in 1980, and Grandma passed away in 2006. She was 92.
Mm-hmm.
So then we bought it before he passed away, and we keep coming out here.
Right.
So it's been in our family for a long time, and I hope to be for many more generations.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, definitely.
So,
it's a very important part of our family, and definitely where
right.
I have the most peace.
Happy
and
times.
Happy. Yeah, it's the happy place.
Exactly.
So you can't have a bad day. It's not allowed. It just doesn't happen.
No.
You drive in. I mean, there's people I talk to, people I tell that they don't get it until they actually get there.
Right.
And then they go,
It's
okay,
peaceful,
I understand.
peaceful and quiet.
Your body. Yep.
We're in the north shore, north side, so we see the sun come up in the east and settle in the west, and it's a beautiful days and beautiful nights and all that kind of stuff. So it's beautiful country.
And you know, so many people don't get it, but I mean, I guess we take it for granted. But I mean, more people don't have that lifestyle than do.
That's true.
You know, I woke up, you know, in the mornings as a little girl, and the first thing I'd do is I'd be down at that lake throwing a line in and catching fish. And
that's right.
Like some of my best memories are going fishing with my grandpa, and you know, looking for the lunkers and catching frogs. And I never see frogs anymore, Dad.
Well, you hear them once in a while.
Yeah, I
so
wonder
many.
what happened to them. That's so
Well,
weird.
there's birds eat them and all that, the cranes and things like that. So.
But it's so
anyhow.
beautiful. I mean, it's people, you don't get it. Go up
It's
to northern Wisconsin. I mean, there's no street lights. I mean,
you know, that's right. But see, this is God's country north.
It is. I mean, it is so beautiful.
Kentucky,
and I mean, you look up at the stars, and you're seeing all the stars. I mean, it's just so clear and so peaceful, and the eagles flying around, and the deer, and all the wildlife that comes around. I mean, you know, I've never really encountered a bear, knock on wood. But I mean, they come around. Tell everybody about, like, there was a time when you walked around, you were mowing the lawn, weren't you? And you went around the front of the cabin?
Yeah, there were some bears. We did not see one bear this year. I've not seen one.
Huh.
But last year and the year before, Mama with two cubs would go way up in the pine trees in front here, and they'd knock over the bird feeders and stuff like that. But the big black bears, and they'd go, that tree's probably 70 feet high, and they're way up in the top, and Mama would sit down at the bottom and waiting for them to come down, and they'd come down and they'd stop somewhere. But, you know, you leave them alone, they won't bother you, but they can scare you. You know, a mama bear is a vicious animal. If something harms their little ones, or get in front of them, you know, so.
Well, I'd be the same way. I'm a mama bear, and I always tell those older women that they call cougars, stay away from my baby bears, because a mama bear can drop a cougar with one swipe.
That's right.
So, okay, so now we're going to go back, Dad. Thank you, because that's such an important part of our life, and we were jumping into the 60s there. I needed to go back. But so 1961...
1960, I went down to Minneapolis.
Okay.
I started working for KP Industries.
Mm-hmm.
And then summer of 61, I got a letter from Jack Kennedy, the president, saying I should go to report to active duty on the 17th of October.
Okay.
Up here in Superior. So I came up here and I did all my testing. They bused me down to Minneapolis, and I did my test down there, and it used to be the Buzza building down there in Washington Avenue. Took the test, and they bused us out to Fort Carson, Colorado.
How long was that bus ride? That had to be a while.
Well, it was overnight, but I think we stayed on the bus all the way. Just bussed us all the way. And then the next morning, they woke me up and said, "You got KP duty," which is kitchen police.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tied I don't know. We were the first ones in there, and they tied a towel around our bunks. And the first 10 had towels. They woke us up, and we went in KP. So the first day in the Army, I had KP. I said, "What is this stuff?" I'm 23 years old, and I had to go to the KP, and I said, "Holy smokes." But I got down there early, so I didn't have to clean pots and pans. I was a dining room orderly, which was to clean tables off and that.
Yeah.
And so I did 8 weeks there. I was infantry training, light infantry for the first 8 weeks. They let us come home for Christmas, which we did, and I went down to Minneapolis and worked 2 weeks while I was for Christmas, then went back out to Fort Carson for the second 8 weeks, and then I was heavy weapons. I was carrying mortars and 106 recordless rifles and things like that, and we were up in the mountains in the wintertime in Colorado.
Sure.
Excuse me. Then I had orders cut to Germany to go there in March. Well, the company commander come around and says, Kronberg, how would you like to stay in the United States to Spitshine and Polly's outfit and all kinds of this and that and there? And he says, oh, by the way, there's 14 girls for every guy in Washington, D.C. And I says, well, I guess I'll have to sacrifice my trip to Germany and go to Washington.
Okay.
So I got up to Washington.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C., March 14th, 1961.
And were you aware, Dad?
1962 is when I went there.
Mama's there helping you. So were you aware
Not
when
yet.
you took that, the honor that you were going to be placed with?
No, we had a whole bunch of people. We got out there and we went through training and all that, and they did us in the dismounted drill and all that, and then a bunch of, I think 10 of us out of the 35 or 40 were selected to go to the Honor Guard Company, which is the ones that take the parades and they do all the stuff in the cemeteries and carry the national colors and part of the tomb guards. So I was down there, and they selected me for the first squad, which was the color team carrying the national color. So I was a right guard or a left guard, whichever they needed for that. That was March 14th I went down there. And then in the middle of May, they asked me if I wanted. See, this was a volunteer. This was voluntary. I volunteered to go out to Washington.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have had to go to Germany. Well, then when in the middle of May, the sergeant come and asked me, would you like to go down to the tomb of the unknown soldier?
Wow.
I don't know. So as a volunteer, yeah, I'll give it a try. So I went down there on the 30th of May, 1962, Memorial Day.
Okay.
And then I trained, and I started walking as a guard, I think the latter part of June of 62.
Okay.
And I did 17 months as a walking guard. And
that's a lot of walking, Daddy.
Well, on for 24 hours and off for 48. So every third day I was back out there. But it was the most prestigious honor that anyone had. And of those that try, about 20% make it.
Okay.
That's how tough it is because of the discipline you got to go through and all that. And we walked for an hour on and off, 3 hours on in the daytime, and then at night we'd walk 2 hours.
Okay.
But it was daylight, 24 hours a day. The tomb has been guarded by the Army, and only the Army, since 1937, I think is the date we started.
Wow.
Going ahead.
Wow.
And so it's a very, very honorable thing to be there. And in I don't know if any of your listeners have ever been out there, but we have a badge that we wear on our right pocket, breast pocket. It has a silver badge that says Honor Guard. And that I had to give mine back in 1963 when I left there because it was only a temporary badge. But in 1963, then they made it an official badge that once you got it honorably, you kept it. So in 1969, I got my badge. It went back to 63, but my badge number is 21.
You know, there's a lot of people that don't know.
21 gun salute is the highest honor you can give anybody, foreign, all that kind of stuff. But if anybody wants to look up stuff, go to tombguard.org in the computer, and it gives you all kinds of history on that.
That's great. So
but now go
tombguard.org.
.org.
Will they find you in there if they look up your name?
Well, I'm on the roster there, but I mean, this is information of what it's all about.
Okay.
But let me go back a little bit there. like I say, I got there in 62, and then in September of 62, I was, excuse me, I was on the mat there watching, doing my hour off on there, and there comes a gal and my buddy and another gal up the steps front there, and I saw them. I couldn't do nothing because the guards are very straight and all that kind of stuff. But then after the guard mountain, I went down, changed clothes, to come up and met them, and I met your mom. So I always tell people I met my wife in the cemetery.
So now I need to ask you, Dad, so when you saw them and you couldn't react, what did you think of her when you saw her the first time?
I didn't pay any attention because I'm concentrating on counting my 21 seconds, see?
Okay.
I counted 1,000.
So 21 salute, 21 gun salute, 21 seconds.
You count 21,000, 1,001, 1,002, and then you face the movement, do your minima, and take 21 steps across, face Washington, do 21 seconds, face the other way. Everything is 21 seconds. Guards go across there, and we were timed by people with stopwatches and all that kind of things. And when I was there, excuse me, the chain was, I bet we weren't more than 4 feet or less from the crowd. And they could look at you and make sure that you and I never, well, when somebody come out underneath the chain, we went to Port Arms and scared the living dickens out of people. When we were at a halt, they requested parents keep their children outside the chain. Then you could hear pins dropping. People said, that guy can talk.
Wow.
But there was one time.
Did people ever try to mess with you?
Well, they couldn't there because we had civilian guards there too. But it's such a solemn place to be. I had one time where I got posted on there, and I walked down to the north end of the mat and turned around. Here's the 2 gals standing down at the far end there. And oh man, I thought to myself, there's trouble. So I didn't blink going down there, and I faced Washington, didn't blink, face away from them, didn't blink, blinked like the dickens going down away from them. They were there for a whole hour at the end of the mat watching me. I never blinked once that whole time. I was not going to let them do that. And then when I got done and my hour up and they walked past them and all that, they said, that guy, he's not real. He didn't blink once.
Wow.
He didn't blink once. But that's the kind of stuff, and but yeah, some people try to do it. But nowadays, from May till I think this time of the year, they change the guard every half hour during the daylight because of the crowds. There's such a bunch of people that want to go up there,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a big thing. It's one of the most solemn places to be, and one of the most honored places. And Jack Kennedy and RFD and Jacqueline are buried over by the Clee Mansion, which isn't too far from the tomb. So the cemetery is a very big place for a lot of people to go to see. But
did you ever did you do the wreath laying ceremonies? Because I know, the kids, when they've gone to Washington, D.C., I mean, what was that like?
Well, many, many different organizations. There's sometimes 2 or 3 wreaths laid in an hour, or many times. Memorial Day is the biggest one, of the wreath laying, and Veterans Day. But I was a plaza guard when I'm on duty. I was there because we had to be out there taking care of stuff like that. But I've saw more dignitaries and more what do you call them? People from different countries, presidents, kings, all of them in my 17 months than most people see in 2 or 3 lifetimes.
Wow.
Because, King Saudi Arabia and all those people and the president. I was there one Memorial Day when President Kennedy placed a wreath, and little John was just probably 3 years old, would be on the plaza. So I saw him when he was just a little kid running around there and all that.
Wow.
So lots of people doing that kind of stuff, but it was an honor that I'll tell you how I was badge 21. There has been 659 soldiers that have received the badge.
Wow.
That I've been wearing. That's in 55 years when that first came out. There's other guards. Now, the guards have, some of them got badges that were previous to the 63 worked on getting badges, and they got the badge. But the numbered ones are 659 as of today when I looked it up in the roster.
Okay.
So you figured that divided into 55 years. That's not a lot of soldiers.
No, that's
Females,
not.
females guards too. There has been, I think, 5, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look it up more. But about 5 women have been guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And that all started in the late, I think when the Carters were president, they wanted to know why there was no females up there. So women have done it too. So, but it's a volunteer status, and it's very tough.
Okay, so do they wear the same kind of uniform, the same kind of shoes?
They wear the blue uniform with the leg pants too. They don't wear skirts up there.
Okay, that's good.
You know, and their hair is done up shorter and all that, so they have to go through the same kind of training, same thing.
Right, they do. They should. They're
infantry.
So now go back to that date then, when your buddy showed up with those 2 women, and you couldn't really pay attention, and then you went down, changed clothes, and you came up. Then what did you think?
Well, me being shy, I talked and all that. So it was about it was a couple of weeks after that before I'd asked her out and all that, because she was a Spec 5. It was a Specialist 5 in the Army, and I was only a PFC, so she outranked me.
Wow. Well, what did you
and
think
she
of
worked.
Star, though?
Well, I don't know. For a couple of weeks, I didn't think that much about it because I didn't see her until about two weeks later. Then it was different. And she had her goals that I was going to be her catch or whatever you want to call it. but I chased her until she caught me. You know, I chased her until she caught me.
Chased her till she caught me. That's
and so we started going out, and I didn't have a car or anything else. I had to borrow my buddy's car and we'd go to bowling alley and stuff like that. But we were met in September of '62, and we got married April 6th of '63.
wow.
And then she told you last week that
was moving fast.
Well, she was afraid I was going to get out of the Army in October and then leave, so she chased me, like I say. But then we, she got out of the Army and went into her civilian job, same, she told you last week, same desk,
right,
for as a civil service. And then it was tough. There was just my other buddy that came up the steps, and a girl that was him. They were our best man and best woman. And then Charlie was my best man, Charlie Thorne from Iowa. Yeah. His mom and dad were out there at that time, so there was 5 or 6 of us in the wedding party. That's all it was.
Wow.
So anyhow, it was a quick thing, and we did our thing, and so she got out of the Army, and then I got out in October '63, and I thought, that's it. I was promoted to buck sergeant before I got out, so in 2 years I made the E5, which is a buck sergeant, and they said, well, this will help you in the reserves. And I said, the reserve what? All I wanted was to get out and go home.
Yeah.
So then in wasn't it 64? You were born in July?
I was. Thanks for letting me
know
so
that. We were living in Minneapolis there.
Yes.
In a house that Frank Lloyd Wright built, the old house.
In Minneapolis on Pillsbury.
Yeah, and then when we got out to St. Louis Park. Then I got letters saying, no, maybe it was earlier. I had to go to the reserves for I had 2 years active duty, 2 years active reserves, and 2 years standby.
Okay.
Well, this is when Vietnam was starting to roll, so they signed me up to the 385th Engineer Group in Minneapolis at Fort Snelling.
Okay.
And so I went out there, and from there I went as a buck sergeant, did a lot of different jobs there, and I ended up the first sergeant for many years, 6 years, and I went through all the different positions, to commo and all that kind of stuff. I put, go ahead.
How did you not, okay, so you said this is during Vietnam. How did you not get deployed?
Because at that time, President Johnson said women and children are going to go before the reserves. That's just a pun that I put out there. But
Yeah.
they did not take the reserve people into that situation. I was a combat engineer, and there were a lot of people being drafted right off the streets to go. So I was lucked out. I did my 2 years in the Army Reserve, and then they were supposed to put me then for 2 years in the standby. I said, I better stay in, because if I go back in the standby, they could probably take me out of the computer and send me over there, because I had an infantry MOS too.
Yeah.
But so I put my 6 years in, and then a lot of the old timers from the Korean War and World War II were retiring. And I said, well, gee, there's a spot. I'm going to try for that.
Yeah.
And I tried my different things, and as I would get promoted in the military, I got promoted at work too, because I went back to my job at KP when I got out of the Army. In fact, I went back the day that Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh my gosh.
63. So when I went into the company, I said, the president has just been assassinated.
Oh.
So that's how
Wow.
that happened. And so then I get promotion at work. I got a promotion in the Army, and it kept going all the way up. So I went from labor work to management, and then at KP went into purchasing, and then production control, and all that kind of stuff. And I did get, I went from the 385th, went to a battalion, became a battalion sergeant major, which is the highest enlisted rank you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And all that time. So I made that in 1969. I become a command sergeant major.
For that, wow.
Well, from 61 to 69, and sometime of that frame. Mom was shaking her head. Maybe I'm telling too much. But anyway.
Yeah, she's shaking because
excuse me.
the year is probably wrong.
Well, it might be. I don't have my list.
Ask
she's gone. She's gone. Oh. But anyway, then I went from there to the 5501st U.S. Army Hospital, which was a 1,000-bed hospital there, and I spent about 3 years there. That was a 1-star general's command.
Okay.
And then from there.
So how do you go to controlling a hospital when you don't have a medical degree?
Because being a command sergeant major, it's a branch in material, so you're leading people.
Okay.
And they asked me the same thing too. They says, how can you come over here with no medical experience? And I said, well, I don't need that. I just need to know how to control people and be able to lead people. And I said, I will teach you how to survive in the battlefield if you teach me how to carry a bedpan and strip a Band-Aid.
There you go.
And so I did that, and then when there was a time frame that we had certain times to get our time in service at that, then I went back to a 2-star level, or up to a 2-star level, to 88th ARCOM.
Uh-huh.
So, and I did that when Desert Storm came, so I had 5 years there.
Oh, wow. Right. So that's...
well,
how many years... So when did you decide to get out, or did they say you had to go?
I had to get out when I was 60 years old, or when I had 35 years in the reserves. That's what the deal. So I retired then in 96, and 98, and then I went into the retired reserve until June of 98. And I was 60 years old, and then I got my retirement pay and all that. Okay. But when I was first sergeant. Your mother came in was my company clerk in 1974. Did you
arrange it for it to be that way?
Well, she came in and that was an opening there for her. She come in. I didn't arrange it so much. She came in and did it on her own, and I just said, "Hey, there's an opening," and so she did that, and that was 1974. That's when I was first sergeant. Yeah, but anyhow, so. Anyhow, yeah, I guess I was 79 when I was promoted. I guess. Yeah, because I was the first sergeant when she came back in 74. Yeah.
Then you.
So anyhow, but all the times then KP in 19 sometime there they sold out and went to Mexico, and I didn't go to Mexico, and so then I went to company called Lake Region Manufacturing in purchasing, where they make medical devices. I worked there for 5 years, and then I went to Cape. No, what's that one?
Nordic Track.
Nordic Track. I spent 5.5 years at Nordic Track too. So I did different jobs all the way through, and people don't really realize how much time a person puts in, man or woman, in the reserves to do their duty for their country and still work full time and raise a family and all that.
Right. Well, they think that 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the summer, right?
That's only when you're about a PFC and below. But once you get rank, you have time and you got people that you're responsible for, so you have to train them and make sure they get the proper equipment and all that. So it's a challenge. Not everybody can do it, and you figure that with 360 plus million people, there's only about a little over 3 million that are in uniform. That's less than 1% of this nation is in uniform, ready to put their lives on the line to take care of the other ones. That
for our freedom, which is one of the biggest words there is. I mean,
that's right.
That's right. For granted, and all of the and I don't like to get into politics, but with the freedom that people like my parents, my ex-husband, my son, so many of our friends and family members, what you guys do makes us able to have these political discussions without fear. Another big effort.
That's right. That's right.
And, no fear, typically, I mean, yes, there's different things in our world that we do have fear over with just the way things are in our world right now. But, I mean, they stay awake at night so we can sleep at night. The way I always look at it.
Well, Cathy, Mom and I put in a lot of time. Between the two of us, we put in 63 years in uniform. And there were many, many weekends we couldn't do things as a family because we were gone somewhere. Excuse me. Maybe we had 1 weekend a month where we could do family stuff.
Right.
But the other time Mom was gone or I was gone. And when I was at the ARCOM level, there were times when I would be gone all the weekends of a month,
Right.
Because I'd have to go traveling to different units to visit them and just to make sure things were being run right, but not run right, but run the way it should be.
Right.
But so we did a lot of things that most people take for granted, but the military people in the reserves, it's a lot different than being on active duty. Active duty is they're there on a post and they're there, but a lot of active duty people don't think the reserves. They don't think the reserves are worth their salt. But a lot of this all these last wars now overseas in Afghanistan, there's a lot of reserve units that went over there, and we lost a lot of people. So it's a lot different. But I wear my retired sergeant major's hat, and people today a couple times says, "Thank you for your service." And you'll see another person with a Navy hat, and you go up, "Thanks for your service, buddy," and all that. So it's not like the Vietnam War when people spit on us and all that kind of stuff. Because when I was in the reserves at the same time, they always told us to take a different route home. Because the people were, I never had it spit on me, but other people had and all that. But they always said, go home a different way. Don't take the same route home, because if they're looking for you, they know the trip. So that was during Vietnam. But now the Vietnam vets are being taken care of. I am a lifetime member of the American Legion, a lifetime member of the DAV. I belong to the American Military Society. I get the Army Times every week to keep track of what's happening.
Yes.
Well, that's where I get all the latest news. But I mean, I keep the military stuff coming in just to make sure. I have been retired 20 years now. 20 years.
Isn't that crazy? And Daddy, so think about that. 20
Yep.
years ago, I mean, I had Mason, he's 19 now, but so you retired, and you got
Yep.
to do something that you didn't get to do.
Well, I was babysitting when Mason was just a little feller there.
Exactly. So the first year of his life, he got to spend with Papa.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, because you were busy working and going in the reserves and stuff when Dennis. Oh, by the way, yeah, I have just now proven that I'm the favorite because he didn't even bring up my brother. You guys, you all hear it now. I can say this and I can use this against my brother. But so Dennis, my younger brother, was born in '67, and
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't really able to be there as much when we were babies, like Mason was, and Austin and Keaton when they were little.
I know.
You got to really experience it on a different level, being a grandpa,
Right.
and
Right.
there was nothing better than going to work every day and knowing that you were taking care of my kids. So if I didn't say it enough before, thank you.
You're welcome. But one thing we have going now is that we live in Kentucky. We're Kentuckians legally because we're back at where your mom was born in Dwarf, Kentucky, and that.
Yeah.
So we live up north where my country is from, and then we're down in southeastern Kentucky. And by the way, folks, my son and daughter, they are going to be with us out in Arlington on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of November when we have our reunion of the Tomb Guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's the first time the whole family has been out there at one time, and we're very proud to have them with us.
Very excited.
You know, and so this is going to be a first, and I don't know, in the year 2021 will be the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier being placed there.
Wow.
2021. That will be one big doings.
Yeah.
So we'll be out there now in November. That's, by gosh, a month and a half away.
Yeah.
We'll be out there, but looking forward to taking my family out there where it all started, where Mom and Dad started.
And that's where I was made. Well, not
1963.
in the cemetery, but outside.
No.
Yes.
But
I'm really excited to go, and I know Dennis is too, so that's going to be a wonderful time. So now, retirement. Yeah, we've got about 5 more minutes. I
see that.
I want to hear a little bit. So, I mean, you were 60. A lot of people don't plan to, they would love to retire at 60, but, most people don't get to. I know a lot of people that are pushing 70 and still working just because.
I know. Well, they get more money that way, but we get our retirement from the Army. We worked for that for all our times.
Right.
And
you set yourselves up too. I mean, you worked for the same company many years. You obviously, I mean, they had pensions back then. They don't have those anymore. But
well, the first company, KP. When I went into management, then the people in management had a different retirement plan than those that were out in working for labor. So I get a retirement plan from then, and I get my Social Security, and I get my military retirement, and we get TRICARE for life, which helps both and I. So that helps us, So we worked for it. We worked. That's one reason we stayed in for that many years too, is that we wanted to be able to enjoy life later on. We're not millionaires, but we can have food every day on the table and stuff like that, and have friends and enjoy ourselves and not have to worry too much,
Right.
But if you don't plan, you'll never succeed. You have to have a plan, and those are the things that you have to do. But the biggest thing that my dad always told us was there's 3 things you need to do in life: keep your mouth shut, your eyes open, and your nose clean.
Wow.
Now, I mean, by keeping my mouth shut is by being mouthy and stuff like that, you can get yourself into trouble. But ask questions. If somebody, if somebody says something, ask why and stuff like that. Find out why.
Right.
Don't mouth off. That's the way to get in trouble. Keep your eyes open. If you see somebody make a mistake and do something wrong, don't do it. Don't do like they did. And then the other one, keep your nose clean. Get out of the drugs, get out of the liquor, get out of all that stuff. Those three things, through life, you'll survive. That's the way it goes.
Speaking of that, a lot of people, that's really good advice. A lot of people with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, there's that little rumor out there that once you are a guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you can never have a drop of alcohol ever again. Is that true?
That's wrong. That's something, put that out.
Yes,
somebody asked me that one time, and
out there? That's so weird.
And you're not supposed to swear either. Well, if they came out one time, that's why I go on tombguard.org. You'll find out stuff like that. Some of the questions in there.
I definitely know that my dad likes orange juice.
I am a human being, and I'll have my drink, and I will swear if I hit my thumb with a hammer. See, and you weren't supposed to talk. That came out many, many, many years ago. But we're all humans. We're all human beings, and we do our duty out there to the best of our ability, and that's the name of the game. But I'm proud that I was there, and I'm proud that I have kids that are proud too. So,
my daddy, and one thing I gotta say is that I'm gonna try not to cry, but you and Mom have been the role models for my boys. For me,
we tried. That's what it's all about.
More people need to do that. I mean, one of the things, talking about money. I mean, I don't ever remember hearing you and Mom fight. I mean, I remember cross words or whatever, but you know what? You guys communicated and you took care of everything. People need to learn that. And with that, Daddy, the hour's up just like that. Isn't that crazy?
I know. I hope I didn't take too much of your time.
Well, you took enough of the time, which is exactly what we needed, right?
That's exactly right. Well, hopefully a little bit they know about on the 11th of November, it'll be on TV. Watch the changing of the guard and the president laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Memorial Day and Veterans Day are the two most important days out there.
Well, and every day that I get with my mom and dad is the most important day for me.
Thank you much.
Love you, Daddy.
I love you all, too. So we'll see you in about 2 weeks.
Exactly. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we will talk to you again next week on the F Word. Special thank you to Joe Savino and Jim Bell for making it all possible with our wonderful sponsors. Everybody have a wonderful week. And any F word you think of?